Hi, it's me, and I've been having a ball checking out lots of Fuji's medium format lenses recently. This time we're checking out a slightly more affordable, slightly smaller and more lightweight wide angle option. Well, affordable and lightweight by medium format standards, that is, the Fujifilm GF 45mm f2.8 RWR. Here in the UK it costs about £1,500, in the US it's about $1,700, so a huge amount of money. Let's hope it's good. As usual, I'd like to thank Fuji UK for loaning me this lens for testing, but as usual this is a totally independent review. I obviously had to give it back afterwards, and they had absolutely no input into this video. 45mm on Fuji GFX medium format is the full frame equivalent of about 36mm, and at f2.8 on medium format that's the equivalent narrow depth of field of about f2.2. So that's a very standard wide angle focal length, versatile and useful for all kinds of everyday photography, with the ability to get you somewhat out of focus backgrounds in your images too, if you're close enough to your subject, that is. It's a lens that could make itself incredibly useful on your camera. And what else is useful is that, while it still has a little bulk to it, it's nicely on the portable side. For a medium format lens, of course, it weighs a little over a pound or nearly 500 grams, so it'll be quite at home on whatever size camera you have. Its feel is a little on the plasticky side, but still perfectly solid enough. It's well weather sealed too, including a weather sealing gasket at the rear. Towards the back we get one of Fuji's nice plastic aperture rings with positive clicks every third of an f-stop and a mechanism to lock you in either automatic or camera controlled aperture mode. In front of that we get a rubberized manual focus ring. It's electronically coupled with the lens's focus motor, and while it turns very smoothly, the focus motor responds to being turned rather jerkily, in common with many Fuji lenses unfortunately. Also, video makers should be aware that the lens displays quite noticeable focus breathing, zooming in and out rather as you change focus. The lens's autofocus system is lovely and quick and perfectly accurate in my tests. The motor emits a very quiet whirring sound, which may get picked up by the camera's microphone just slightly, but won't really be audible to anyone past that. The lens has a 62mm filter thread, and it comes with a surprisingly deep plastic lens hood, pretty good for a wide-angle lens. Overall, perfectly fine build quality here, although it doesn't quite feel like a lens that should really cost over $1,500. But what about image quality? Let's challenge this thing by testing it on a Fuji GFX100 Mark II with its 102 megapixel sensor. In-camera corrections are turned on for this test. At f2.8, sharpness in the middle of the image is just good and contrast just okay. The corner image quality at 100 megapixels anyway is rather weak, with some obvious colour fringing. Stop down to f4 and those corners look better, but still a little soft. The middle now looks excellent though. At f5.6 it still looks excellent, and the corners are now looking great too. However, even stopped down to f11, that's about as sharp as the lens gets. So, while it's very nice that, stopped down, the lens can get you 100 megapixels of detail, still, considering how much money you're paying for this thing, it would be nice to see that same detail at brighter apertures. Okay, let's bypass Fuji's automatic corrections by shooting in RAW and processing with third-party software, and take a look at distortion and vignetting. The lens projects a little barrel distortion here, about average for a lens this wide. Vignetting though is very heavy at f2.8, stop down to f4 or f5.6 for those corners to brighten up, but that's as bright as they get here, really, so if you're shooting in RAW, be sure to get that problem corrected properly. Let's see about close focusing now, and this lens can only focus down to about 45cm, again, not very good. Happily though, even at f2.8, the close-up image quality remains sharp with decent enough contrast, so you can at least crop into your image here to get closer. Next, work against bright lights. It's just an average performance here. We are catching a few glares and a couple of bright flecks of flaring in the image here, but admittedly, I've seen worse than this before. While we're working in the dark, let's take a look for coma and sun stars. At f2.8 there's some purple tinged smearing on bright points of light in the corners of the image frame, but it's not strong. Just stop down to f4 and it quickly goes away. Let's look for sun stars then. You need to stop down to f11 for some rather messy stars to begin to appear. You really need to stop down to f22 or f32 for those to properly come into play, which isn't very exciting. Next, bokeh. We finally come across a strength here. The lens's out-of-focus backgrounds almost always look beautifully smooth to me, in common with most medium format lenses. And finally, related to bokeh comes longitudinal chromatic aberration. At f2.8 we are seeing some clear colour fringing on bokeh highlights. Stop down to f4 and it's almost gone, and at f5.6 it's totally gone. Overall, well, while it's a lens that can certainly get you some lovely images, its technical image quality isn't what I was hoping for. At a price of £1,500 or $1,700 US, it's a lens I can't really recommend. Even for a medium format optic, while it may get you some lovely images, its rather underwhelming image quality makes it overpriced for what you're getting here.